Welcome back to our Intermediate Financial Accounting course. In our last segment, we did just a quick intro of Intermediate Accounting and how this class fits in to the whole Intermediate series. Now we want to take a few minutes in this segment to talk about the details of the course, the nitty-gritty stuff, and also a little bit about learning and how we can learn more effectively, and hopefully help you get a feel for why we've structured this class like we have. So let's jump right back into our discussion of the course as a whole. Now, hopefully you remember that we have structured our Intermediate Accounting series around the financial statements with the accounting cycle as the basis, and then building on top of that the balance sheet, a lot of which you did in Intermediate Part 1, and then onto the income statement, the statement of retained earnings, and the statement of cash flow. So that by the time we're done with the whole series, you'll feel very comfortable with all of the different financial statements and the ways that we account for the items that appear in those financial statements. Well, that's all well and good and hopefully gives you a big picture of where we're headed and why, but it doesn't really talk about the details of what we want to accomplish in this class. So let's take just a minute to talk about what I hope we'll accomplish together as we move through this semester. First, I hope that by the time we're done, you will have continued to learn how to research and account for various transactions. Now, some of this is the same thing we've done in the past, where we have shown you the journal entries and talked about how you make them, and here are the calculations and putting that all together. But as we move into Intermediate Part 2, I also want to take a little bit of time to show you how to research and find GAAP. So towards the end of our semester, we'll be getting into the ASC, or the Accounting Standards Codification. A second goal for this class is to help you more fully understand how accounting information affects business decision making. You see, in a lot of intermediate classes, we focus specifically on journal entries and methods. We don't talk enough about the fact that those journal entries flow into accounts, which flow into the financial statements, which then flow to our business decision makers, whether they're stockholders, the board of directors, a bank, etc. Which means that the decisions that are made translate into journal entries, which translate into investor opinion as they look at those financial statements. And of course, other business leaders use them too. So really, we want to understand how not only the decisions, but the rules that FASB has set about those decisions change what investors and other leaders see about the business. And finally, our last goal is to help you appreciate accounting more at the end of the semester than you do right now today as we're getting started. I want every one of you to feel that this is fun and exciting and cool and something that you want to be able to work with as you move through the rest of your careers. Now, I admit, you may not get to the point where you love it like I do, and that's okay. I just want you to get closer to that so that you'll feel better about this material. Because if it's something you're comfortable with and you enjoy, it'll make it so much easier to work with for the rest of your careers. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty. How are we actually going to accomplish these goals over the course of the semester? Well, first and foremost, let's talk about the class itself and what we're going to be doing together. So our class is going to be broken into 4 basic parts. We'll have our tests, we'll have our homework, we'll do a series of cases, and then we'll have some participation points. So let's talk about each of these 4 components and a little bit about what I expect in each one. So we will have 3 exams over the course of the semester. Each of them will be more of a midterm exam as opposed to a traditional final, because each one of the 3 tests will cover 3 of our chapters with about 10 questions per chapter, adding up to our 30 questions. All the questions will be multiple choice and none of them will be comprehensive. Now, if you've gone through a course schedule, you've probably noticed that we're actually covering 10 chapters instead of 9, which means there's 1 chapter that isn't being tested. That's because the last chapter that we're going to study, the statement of cash flows, really doesn't work very well in a multiple choice test. The statement of cash flows is a lot more fun. So what we will do with that last chapter is we'll do a final case that will allow you to work with and create a statement of cash flows instead of having it tested. Now, as you're thinking about the test, let me just let you know what my goals are. First, I want to make sure that you have actually learned the material. Not that you're just parroting back what you've already seen, which means I write the test questions a little bit different than what you may have seen before. They're not meant to be tricky, they're just meant to put it in a slightly different scenario or in a different context so that you can show me that you really do understand the concepts. So please be prepared for that and make sure that you can talk about each of the topics and discussion points that are listed for each chapter in Blackboard. Let me show you what I mean. If we go into our home page in Blackboard, you'll see information about the syllabus, the course schedule. There's a place for you to log into our class discussions, links for homework and cases, etc. And down here are our weeks. And each week contains all of the information that you need for that week. Now, it doesn't have links to the assignments. Instead, these are the lessons, the lectures, and the to-do list, what you need to be prepared for and thinking about each week. So if I click on week 1, you'll see first and foremost our to-do list, our introductory videos, which you're watching now. There's a summary of chapter 14 that you can take a look at. And then there's a set of PowerPoint slides and videos that go along with chapter 14. If you need to, you should do a skim of the textbook to make sure you're comfortable with all of the topics and concepts that we're covering. And then you see down here at the bottom that I've listed the assignments that are due and that you should be thinking about during this week. If I just click on first the summary, there'll be one of these for each chapter. You can read a discussion of what each chapter covers, and then down here are the learning objectives. And this list tells you what I expect you to be able to do for each chapter. Discuss this concept, calculate that, explain, make a journal entry, etc. So one of the best ways to study for our tests is actually go through this list with a friend or with a mirror or whatever and talk through each of these points. Can you really discuss and describe and calculate, etc.? Everything that this says you should do. So this is really your study guide for the exams. So if I go into the chapter 14 lectures folder, you'll see that sometimes the system has a bit of a, not a glitch, let's just call it a hiccup. It's linking to a separate folder. So just click on launch and it will bring that right up. A couple of important things within the lecture folder is, first off, this chapter summary. This doesn't discuss the concepts in the chapter. Instead, it tells you how long the videos for this chapter run, so you know how much time to prepare. And it tells you a few things about the PowerPoint slides and the playlist, etc. And occasionally we'll make an invitation like this one does to contact me if you need access to some background material. After the chapter summary, you'll see the PowerPoint slides. If you click on those, it's going to connect you to Dropbox, which you probably have seen already. But if you haven't, let me just talk about this. Dropbox is a way for me to share files with you quickly and easily, instead of having them uploaded where it takes sometimes a long time to work with the university server or to make corrections if there's a typo or anything. So we use this Dropbox link instead. It sometimes will bring up a login option that will appear right here in the middle of the screen, and you can just hit exit right out of that. You do not have to sign up for an account. That's just the company trying to talk you into one. So just X out of that if you have to. And then right up here, you'll see an option to download the file. And that's what you're going to want to do with most of these Dropbox files so that you can actually work with them and type in your notes or work on an Excel file, etc. So use that download, put it on your own system. You can save it however you want to, etc. And then you'll have these slides and you can use them to take notes if it's helpful to you. You know, print them out or type them, etc. Before we click out of the PowerPoint slides, let me just show you one other thing. At the very bottom of the slides, you'll notice these 4 that are a different color. These are an extra set of practice problems that I've provided about a company named DGS. So you'll see it and be able to do the example along with me in the videos, and then come to the bottom of the PowerPoint slides and have an extra problem. The solutions, however, are not here in PowerPoint. Instead, if you go back to our main folder, right here is the Chapter 14 DGS Solutions. That's going to bring up an Excel file that will have all the solutions in it. Now, word to the wise here. Please do not just look at the PowerPoint slide and then open the DGS Solutions and say, yep, I can do that. You will absolutely mess up the best learning opportunity that these DGSs provide. And that is for you to think through the process yourself and try it on your own. So I strongly recommend that you do that. Try it by yourself and then look at the solutions. As we'll talk about a little bit later, looking at your solutions and deciding, does this match Jason's solutions, will actually push you into higher levels of learning and really help you learn better. They've actually shown that getting something wrong and then being shown how to do it correctly is one of the most powerful ways to cement knowledge. The final part of this folder is our video segments folder, and it has a list of all of the different segments with a brief description of each segment. You can watch each one individually. You can use this to go back and say, oh, I just need to see section 3 again, or I want to see segment 5. That's the part I'm having trouble with. So you can rewatch them. You also, if you prefer, can click on this link down at the bottom, and it will bring up the whole playlist. And you can play it and have it run all the way through like it was a normal lecture in class. So it's entirely up to you which way you prefer to watch them. I've just tried to provide as many options as possible so that it's easy for you to navigate. But that's how you get to the lecture material. So in relation to the exams, again, I strongly recommend that you go back to this summary of each chapter, work through the learning objectives, go back and watch whatever video segments you're not quite comfortable with yet. Make sure that you are comfortable with those processes, and then try those DGS problems as kind of a last try to make sure you're really comfortable with the content. One last thing that I want to mention before we move off of the exams, and that is within every set of video lectures for every single chapter, I've provided a set of key concepts, the ideas or methods or processes that I feel are the most important concepts in every chapter. And there's 4 to 7 of them, depending on the chapter that we're in. So be watching for those. I tend to ask a lot of questions about them on the key concept questions and in the exams, but also they're just anchors that you can use to help you understand everything else going on in that chapter. So I strongly recommend, as you watch the videos, that you write those down and have them to study from as well as you get ready for the test. Last details down here at the bottom. Each exam is worth 90 points, so it's 3 points per question, and they're all or nothing because they're multiple choice and the system's grading them. You will need to work with the university to get an approved proctor. You can go through the process to get a live proctor, or back on our web page here, if you go to the syllabus and scroll down to the bottom, you'll see a whole section on the online proctored exams. It has a link there to the exam proctor page, or you can set it up through Examity and take it that way. Which choice you use is entirely up to you. The Examity link is right up here under course information. So if you have questions about that, please let me or your section instructor know, and we will be happy to help. Our homework will be run through the Wiley Plus system. There will be 10 problem sets, 1 from each chapter that we're going to cover. These assignments are going to help you with goal 1, which is learning more about the accounting system. It's also going to give you some extra practice, and occasionally you'll have a question that asks you something a little bit different than what we've covered in class, and it will always provide a link to the textbook if you need that additional help. But it will give you a different perspective, and that's really what we're looking for with this Wiley Plus homework. Each problem set is worth 10 points and will be due at just before midnight on the dates in the course schedule. So please make sure you're comfortable with that course schedule and you know when things are due. Just FYI, the grades will stay in the Wiley Plus system until the very end of the semester, when I'll pull them out and put them into my Excel spreadsheet, and then I'll provide a summary at that point of your total points earned. One other thing about the Wiley Plus homework, they are multiple tries, as many tries as you want up to the deadline that's in the course schedule. So if you don't get full credit on this, it's your own darn fault, because you can try it as many times as you want. Once the deadline is passed, you can still submit the assignment until 5 p.m. on the last day of instruction, and that date is in your course schedule for half credit. Some points are better than none. Please still get it done, even if for some reason you missed that deadline. In addition to the homework, we will do 7 short assignments or cases. It comes out to about 1 per week, although there's some shuffling with that because of our exams. The first of these cases will be an ethics case. It will be graded by a separate TA who grades nothing else in the semester. The 6th case will be from the Accounting Standards Codification, or the ASC. It'll be our chance to help you learn more about this ASC database, which is on the CPA exam. It's used constantly by professionals. This is a really important topic. So we will have a couple of videos you can watch. We'll have a class discussion, and then there'll be this case that you can work on and kind of practice the skills that we've learned. So it's a huge opportunity to get started on what is going to be a really important part of your accounting education. The other 5 assignments are about a company called Terry Company. And basically what has happened here is Terry finished their financial statements and then they found some mistakes. And so our job is to go back, do the journal entries to fix the mistake or to account for the item that was missed, and then fix the financial statements to show the effects of that journal entry. So this is a huge opportunity to help you see how accounting really works in practice. It's right there with goal 2, understanding how business decisions and accounting entries flow into the financial statements. We will have a class discussion session that talks about Terry and also that gives you some hints and ideas on how to do this. There's a template to get you started. And then, of course, if you've got questions, feel free to reach out. But again, the goal here with these Terrys is to see how the financial statements are actually changed by the journal entries we make. All of these cases are worth 15 points. You're welcome to discuss your work with others, but please don't do your work with others. So I want this to be a discussion that we learn from, but don't share files or anything. Just talk it through. Last piece of our course will be participation. There'll be 2 parts to this. The first 30 points comes from our class discussions, and you can watch them live, or I will record them and you can watch the recording later. The recording will become available about 24 hours after the original session is over. It takes about that long to get the video processed and uploaded. And then once you've watched the session, whether live or video, then there'll be 2 very simple questions that ask you to briefly summarize what we did to show that you participated. So an easy way to get that first set of participation points. The rest of the participation points come from what I call our key concept questions. And it's a series of 3 questions about each chapter that are designed to get you thinking about what was in the videos. So it's really just a way to ensure that you've learned what you need to from the videos. They're not quizzes, they're assignments. So they're open book, they're open note, they're even open video if you really want to go back and do that. There's a deadline in the course schedule, tells you when you should have it done. However, I will accept them without any late penalty up through the very last day of the semester at 5 p.m. Those are the elements of our course. Hopefully they make sense. If not, our very first class discussion will focus on the Terry, but we'll talk about the course schedule and do an open Q&A before we move into the Terry. So if you do have questions about any of these assignments or how they're graded or how to do them, where to find them, etc., please let me know. For now, I want to just take a minute before we wrap up to show you again on our course website where you find these pieces. So if you'll click right here under class discussions, there's a link to Collaborate Ultra. And you'll be able to enter these rooms about a half hour before we're ready to get started to watch the live session. After the live session, I will post a link to the videos here as well. Then you can see the class discussion questions. It's just a simple question about, first, summarize the session, what was discussed, and then what was your key takeaway. That's it. That's all we're looking for. So it's not meant to be hard. Please don't take more than about 5 minutes on this. That's all they're meant to be. For the Wiley Plus homework, you'll see a registration page here in Homework and Cases. I teach several different sections of intermediate accounting. If you try to just go to Wiley Plus and work your way through to find our class, a lot of times people accidentally end up in the wrong section, and we don't want that. They've got different assignments than you do completely because their schedule is different, etc. So please use this link to sign up for your homework. And there's more information about the codes for Wiley Plus, etc. in the syllabus. In addition, you can see here the links to all of our cases with their assignments and, if appropriate, the rubrics. If I click on this Terry Dropbox, you'll see the rubric right here, so you can look through it and see exactly what we're looking for your 15 points. For the key concept questions, again, there's a link right here that you can click on to answer them. Each key concept assignment has a pool of questions. It's going to draw 3 of those for you, 3 points each for 9 points total. But that's where you find them. And then finally, right here is our assessments. There's nothing to see because the tests aren't active, but you'll go here to do your tests with your proctor. Final 2 things I want to point out. Number 1 are the discussion boards. There's questions for me. There's announcements from me. There's a section where you can get on and ask questions about the Wiley homework or the cases. My hope is that you'll post your questions here so that when I answer them, I'm answering them for the whole class. However, you're also welcome to email me or your section instructor to get help that way. In addition, there's other links here to course information provided by the university that you're welcome to get into if you're interested. And I think that's it as far as our course structure goes. Before we end today, I want to take just a minute to break, you could call it a rule. As professors or instructors, we spend a lot of time learning about learning. And we use what we've learned about learning to develop our courses and the assignments and the projects that you do in these classes. But we never share those theories with you, so you don't know what it is we're trying to accomplish. So the first thing that I wanted to share with you was that course structure that we talked about earlier. That's a really important piece of the way I design and think about this course. Everything is designed to fit into that picture. And the reason for that is so that everything fits together and makes logical sense. So we'll jump around a little bit in the textbook to match the picture. The other really important thing that I want to share with you is what we call Bloom's taxonomy. And you may have seen this before. If you have, this is going to be a bit of a review. But if you haven't, this is the most common theory of how people learn. We start by just basic remembering, which is rote memorization. We then move up to really being able to understand and synthesize what we've learned. This is where you can kind of put it in your own words. Then we move into applying. Take this concept and apply it. And then we move into analyze, where we decide, wait, is this right? Is it wrong? Is it a good decision, bad decision? We evaluate. We're looking at this information. Do I believe it? Do I not believe it? And then the highest level is creation. And this is where you are putting something together in a whole new way, or developing a project or an activity that takes all the different pieces that you've learned and puts them together into a brand new idea or method. And the further you go up this taxonomy, the more you know about a specific concept. So if you think about it, when you were in high school, the goal was to get you probably down here, mostly just remembering and a little bit of understanding. As we've moved into your freshman and sophomore classes, we're moving you up a little bit to understand and apply. Now, where do you think the professionals want you to be when you first start out in accounting? Now, when I ask that question in class, I usually have people say, oh, they want us up here and evaluate. No, they don't. Evaluate and create, that's what the partners do, and the CFO and the controller do. Where they want somebody who's brand new is down here. They want you to understand, be able to apply, and be starting to analyze. So this is where we're trying to get you so that you're ready to get out into the real world. And this is why my class is structured the way that it is. Videos, extra problems. Don't just look at the example, but try it and then look at it. If you look at your work and my work and compare them, you've kicked yourself up into analyze. If you can talk it through with somebody, you're applying. That's why the best way to study for this class is a lot of discussion and a lot of comparison. Let me try it. Did I get the same thing he did? So I actually strongly recommend, as you go through the videos, that you listen to the concepts. We get to an example, pause it, try it on your own. Even if you totally blow it, you're still up in analyze as you now watch me do it and you think about what you did and you're comparing and contrasting and going through the right answers, that highest level for an intro person. That's really where we want you to be. And then over time, you'll continue to develop and get into evaluate and create. But that's why I encourage that kind of learning and discussion, because that's what's really going to help you to learn. It's also one of the reasons why we do so many cases, is because a case forces you to analyze and apply, and we'll do some evaluation as well, just a little bit. How do you think investors are going to react, or the banker is going to react, etc. We're just trying to kick you up into those higher levels of the taxonomy. That's the goal. So it's not busy work for the sake of busy work. It's work for the sake of getting you higher into Bloom's taxonomy. Now, in addition to Bloom's taxonomy, there's also this really cool neuroscience. Let me share this with you too. This is a picture of the neurons that make up your brain. Here's how it works. These little things are called dendrites. A dendrite is what holds information that you're interested in. That's your memories right there. And you can see that the dendrites up here are connected by synapses to other neurons. And when you think about things, when you remember something, it's because those dendrites have fired the information into your brain so that you can think about it. Basically, that's a simplification, but that's how it works. So what we need to do in order for you to learn something is we need to get you to build these dendrites. So how does that work? Well, this is a picture of learning from the brain's perspective. And you can see this is 8 days, from day 0 to day 8. So you can see right down here, I learned something and boop, out comes 2 dendrites. That's what these are. By day 2, I haven't really thought about it again. And the brain says, oh, you must not care. I'm going to absorb them back in. And it gets rid of them. You can see it even better up here. Here's the dendrite. Here it started to fade. The brain is saying, oh, I don't think he really cares, or she really cares. They haven't thought about it anymore. So I start to absorb it. And by day 4, it's gone. So what happens? Well, you start to study, or you try it again, or you look at it. Notice up here, pop, it's come back out again. Because you showed your brain you cared. We have to think about things a lot to convince the brain that they're important enough to keep the dendrite instead of getting rid of the dendrite. Let's look at a good example of this. Now this is focusing on a baby, but the idea, the process works the same for us as well. We can always learn. It used to be that the science said, if you haven't learned it by a certain age, you'll never learn it. No, our brains can learn forever. So we start, as we're just barely learning a concept, you can see how few dendrites there are over here. The dendrites are little spidery things. So few in either a newborn or someone who's just barely learning a concept. If we spend a month working on the concept, look at how many dendrites we can build. By 9 months, a full academic year, look how many we can do. By the time you've studied for a whole academic degree, we start seeing these big pathways. These are the things that you know so well, you don't even think about them anymore. They just happen. Like debits on the left, credits on the right. I just know debits are on the left. Don't even have to think about it. That's the kind of stuff that these pathways are in. And once you become a partner or a controller, or you've worked on this for years and years and years, look at how deep those pathways are, how firmly they are etched into your brain. That's what we're looking for. Now, I realize we're never going to get you to adult in this class, but as we build on things, the hope is that we go from here to here on the new stuff that we're learning, and that with accounting in general, we're starting to move into this category with some pathways and a lot more branching out as we really learn the concepts. And that's why we do as many different examples as we do, even in the short time period that we have working together this semester. I know this video is getting kind of long, so we'll keep this quick. First, academic integrity. I have to talk about this. Hopefully it will not be an issue, but just to make sure we've discussed it, please do your own work in this course. There are several things that you're welcome to use open book and open notes on, like all of the participation. The Terry's and other cases you can talk about with each other if you want to. The Wiley homework, you have as many tries as you want, so you've got plenty of options there. Really, the only thing that you need to do on your own is the tests. Those will be closed book, closed note, and of course closed neighbor with a proctor. The other stuff, you can always talk about it, but please do your own work. If you feel that somebody is using your material, or if somebody starts asking you for material, please let me know. The basic rule of thumb here is that if you're caught cheating in this class, it's a 0 for the first assignment and a 0 in the class for the second one. Long and the short of it is don't cheat, and then we won't have any problems. And I'm sure this semester that's what will happen. All right, I'm done harping on that. Last thing, I do accept late work for partial credit in many instances. Please see the syllabus for that policy. If you have something come up, please talk with your section instructor or please contact me. Let's get it taken care of. One of my hardest experiences ever as a faculty member was when I had a student who was doing a wonderful job at the beginning of the semester, and then all of a sudden it went south. Really started doing poorly, had real trouble with the exams, etc. She came to see me at the end of the semester and said, I don't know what to do. My grandma died a month into the semester and she raised me. What can we do? And right then, in the middle of finals week or right before finals week, the answer was nothing. I can't do anything at this point. You've already submitted the assignments. You've tried the test. There's nothing we can do. But if I'd known earlier, I could have helped. So I don't want to pry. I don't want to dig into things. But please, please, if something comes up, work obligations that you can't get away from, an emergency in your family, some kind of medical issue, whatever it is, please let me know so that I can try to help and we can maybe come to an arrangement and get you some counseling and some help if necessary. So please, don't suffer in silence. Let's get you the help that you need. I have a open door policy. If you've got general questions, put them into the discussion boards. If you've got specific questions, please let me know. My basic policy is I will get back to you within 24 hours unless it comes in Friday after the normal business day, and then I will get back to you by lunch on Monday. So please reach out if you need help. This is going to be a wonderful semester. We've talked about a lot of details. It starts to get overwhelming, but right now just relax, start watching those videos and enjoying the content, and we'll keep moving forward together as we work through the semester. And I will look forward to working with you as we get into Chapter 14. We'll see you then. Thanks.